with how well Boston's been playing that Orlando can come back and win this series. Well, a guy that doesn't have to worry about winning an NBA playoff series anytime soon is LeBron James. However, he is still winning the front page of nearly every NBA news feed. LeBron is arguably, the biggest free agent at this point the NBA has had in several years, and there are a lot of possible teams that could land LeBron. You've heard Chicago, New York, Miami. We've heard them all for about the whole season at this point. And the other day I read an article by ESPN's David Aldridge, and Aldridge kind of weighed in his opinion on this situation by giving odds of each team landing LeBron. Now, he put the Cavs at a 4-1 odd, the Bulls at a 6-1 odd, the Heat at an 8-1 odd, the Knicks at a 20-1 odd, the Nets at a 25-1, and the Clippers at a 40-1 odd. Now, his big argument against the Nets was that they're a 3-year pitch away from actually landing LeBron. And even though the Nets weren't able to land one of the top 2 picks in the draft, I still would disagree with David Aldridge on this. And here's my reasoning for why I believe LeBron should go to the Nets. Now, he can make his max deal there, and they'll still have a little bit of cap space left. His max deal, for those who don't know, is $125 million over 6 years, which is right around $21 million a year. And the Nets have $25 million worth of cap space. So he's going to have like $4 million left to dabble around and add some talent there as well. So the Nets landed the 3rd pick in the draft, which I believe they'll either use on Wes Johnson from Syracuse or Derek Favors. And both these guys could add a lot to the Nets. I think Wes Johnson, at this point, if they are able to get LeBron, would be a much better fit. So I'm going to run through their roster as if Wes Johnson was the 3rd pick in the draft. So you start off with Devin Harris as the first pick, or as your point guard there. Devin Harris has established himself as an all-star point guard in this league. He's been in the game last season, not this past season, after suffering quite a few injuries. But Harris is a really quick guard. He can set up the offense well. He can also score well. So he's an upgrade from a Mo Williams, in my opinion. Then you move to the shooting guard. And I think in New Jersey's case, if they do draft Wes Johnson, they put LeBron at the shooting guard. And, LeBron's a guy who can play all 5 positions for the most part anyway, so this isn't a whole step back for him. He'll still be able to rebound really well from that shooting guard position. He's big enough and still quick enough to play it as well. I don't think he'll struggle against any, of those, the tweener guards like an O.J. Mayo or an Eric Gordon, guys that are like 6'3" and still are playing that position. I still think he's going to be quick enough and athletic enough to play that. You move to your small forward, you add Wes Johnson, who kind of reminds me a little bit of Danny Granger from the Indiana Pacers. He really can hit the 3 well and also get to the rim and get some, a couple rebounds and as well score the basket around the rim and draw fouls to get to the line. So after that, you move to the power forward, where this is really, I believe, New Jersey's big weakness, which is why they might add a Derek Favors. However, I really do like Yijian Leon. He is a big man who can hit threes as well as pull up jumpers. He also has turned himself into a decent post scorer as of last season, whereas his rookie season with Milwaukee, he was really only out there to shoot the ball from distance. But now he really has, developed a low post game that's quite all right. So I really do like Yi, and I believe that his big weakness is rebounding, but adding LeBron James into the lineup kind of blankets that. And then you get their big man, and this is really the position I feel like they're the strongest at as far as their starting 5, and that's Brook Lopez, who I believe has become one of the better centers in the league. He's established himself as a 20 and 10 type player, and he also adds 2 blocks, so he's also a good defensive big. So right now you'd be looking at Devin Harris, Wes Johnson, LeBron James, Yijian Leon, and Brook Lopez as your starting 5. There's a lot of near all-star talent there. Add into that they have good bench depth. You have Chris Douglas-Roberts, who's a big-time scorer off the bench. You have Courtney Lee, who's one of those tweener guards that I was talking about earlier, who can do a lot of things for you. Then you have Terrence Williams in the bench that is almost like a LeBron James-type player. I'm not saying that he's nearly as talented, but at Louisville, he did play that type of role where he brought the ball up for the Cardinals. He was able to rebound well. He's a good shooter from the outside when he actually gets on a roll. He also can get to the basket. He's a good athlete. So he's kind of got a little bit of that LeBron James in his game. He's not, nearly as good, but he's, a poor man's LeBron pretty much. You add into that their third string point guard, because I believe that Courtney Lee would establish himself as the backup there, would be Keon Dooling, who's a quick guard who can come in and, do a lot for your offense. And then you add Josh Boone, who's a good defensive big man who can come in and play power forward or center when the situation is needed. And then they'll have a little bit more money to throw around, like I said. So really what they've created there, though, is also a team that would be averaging right around 25 years of age, which is just perfect for LeBron. He gets to play with a lot of guys his own age. He can establish himself as a true leader, which is something I kind of felt like in Cleveland at points. He just was a little too timid to get in his teammates' face and say, hey, man, we got to step up. We got to get going. He kind of relied on himself a little too much in the situations as opposed to telling people when they needed to step up as well. That's something he could do with a group around his own age. They'd have almost that Oklahoma City Thunder type look because they are a younger team. Add into that LeBron would satisfy his need to play in New York by going to a team that is moving to Brooklyn soon. And then, he'd get to play for Jay-Z's team, and that was kind of a big deal for him, it seems like, because him and Jay-Z have established their friendship. There's a lot there in New Jersey, and I believe that's why they have a lot of selling points for LeBron. Add into that as well that this is kind of a small deal. I think Vanderway will make the change back from coach to general manager, and then that would kind of give LeBron the need to pick a coach that he would like to play for. Another team that I really feel like isn't getting enough love as a landing point would be the Clippers. But my big argument for him not going there is that him and Kobe in the same town would be bad for the NBA. You'd have more of that talk about who's better, Kobe or LeBron, and it'd go on every night for the most part. But really, LeBron needs to go to a city where he can establish himself. Not that the Clippers don't have a good roster. You have Eric Gordon, Blake Griffin, who I believe will turn himself into an all-star player if he can get over his injuries, Baron Davis, who's been an all-star, Chris Kaman, who's really established himself as one of the better big men in the league. And then their bench needs a tad bit of work, but it's kind of enough, with that starting five. But yeah, you just go back to that LeBron would be playing in the same town as Kobe, and that just isn't something I believe that is enticing to him. Chicago seems to be the next best fit in my opinion, but I believe Dwayne Wade will be the one that will end up there. And the Knicks, contrary to popular belief, just don't have enough there for LeBron. Their best player, if David Lee leaves, is going to be Danilo Gallinari, who plays the same position as LeBron and was the same type of player. And really, neither Gallinari or LeBron, I would believe in D'Antoni's system, would be a good shooting guard. So there's nothing there for LeBron. I think what the Knicks need to go after would either be Amari Stoudemire or Carlos Boozer to give themselves a good 4-post scorer, and then maybe Joe Johnson, who kind of seems like he's ready to leave Atlanta. So you add a good 2 guard, and then you get a good 4, and then hopefully Eddie Curry can get over his fat disease or whatever he suffers from every season, and then you have a decent roster in New York. And then the final destination would be Miami. If they retain Wade, I just don't see LeBron going there. I'd see maybe Chris Bosh making the move there, but Wade has really established himself as the leader of that Miami team, and I just can't see LeBron going to a situation where he's not going to be known as the guy.